I think it goes without saying that advertising is an important part in the success of a product, especially in gaming. It can shift the conversation of a game before its release, for better or worse. Usually what you want to do in promotional material is encapsulate the feeling of playing the game or spending time in the game's world. And it's interesting to see how these strategies were used in retrospect.
No sleeping on the job.
One example that I can think of that nailed its marketing is Animal Crossing. From the Nintendo Power magazines to the KCL mascot commercials, it took a lot of convincing to get people interested in this game, which was very avant-garde at the time. It's not too uncommon that I find old promotional material while sifting through information about this old title. Honestly, nothing too mind-blowing, until I found a video uploaded by Mega Man 52. As someone who finds a good amount of nostalgia within Flash games, I was really surprised to have seen this. It's not like Flash Player was uncommon for games in web design back in the day, especially during the GameCube era, but this is Animal Crossing, one of my favorite games of all time. I had to see if there's anything else like this way back when, and that's when I decided to go back in time to 2004 and find out for myself. With some surprisingly simple Flash emulation in the Wayback machine, it wasn't too hard accessing this old era of content, albeit not one-to-one. Still, I'm pretty satisfied with my findings, hence why I'm making this video. I also figured it would be a nice break of pace from my usual reviews. So, welcome everybody to The Crossing Guardian, the oldest Animal Crossing website out there. When arriving at the North American website, you are taken to a landing screen with a villager holding a newspaper. According to Nookipedia, there are 14 villagers that would rotate on the screen. Upon clicking the villager, you'll be taken to the main page itself. This is The Crossing Guardian, a fictitious weekly newspaper with multiple activities and information about current events. This is such a charming way to promote the game. The novelty of a newspaper really is something that feels right at home for Animal Crossing, especially with the amount of personality this entry had. It's almost like we're getting a slice of something that would exist within the game's world. Now, The Crossing Guardian wasn't just a website. It was also a page featured in many Nintendo Power magazines. They would recur on a monthly basis, however downgraded to The Crossing Quarterly in 2004, now releasing seasonally. There was a lot of fan content submitted within these issues, and it really makes you wonder what some of these people are up to nowadays. In the modern day, the Animal Crossing website isn't being updated all too much. They have a news feature, but it hasn't been updated since July of 2022. Hell, the website's still using the New Leaf aesthetic for some reason. I will say, I do like how it's showing what villagers having a birthday. The earliest iteration of the website I could find goes all the way back to October 1st of 2002. We can see that it says Volume 2, and also takes place a week after the game's release in the US, meaning it's safe to assume the website started on the same week and/or day as the release. The website would continue to receive new issues until either the 1st or 11th of September of 2012, 10 years after the game's original release in the US. Not only is that over 500 weeks, but that also means the website survived the release of 2 games. It makes me wonder how they updated all these issues. My best guess is that they just recycled old content. We can see that the website is divided into 6 segments up at the top. Right now we're looking at the news tab. Not much to see here, seems like it's just promoting the other pages you can look at. The most interesting thing on the page is the banner on top of Pete and Pelly. When clicking on it, you're taken to a page that delivers secret codes. Now, every time I put in a birthday, it always just refreshes without progressing to any sort of code. Luckily enough, I found a clip of Brian MP16 explaining how the process worked.
You type in the month, day, and year to make sure you either have parental guardian assistance or you are old enough. Then you type in your town name and your player name. It will then spit out a code.
Over here we have a quick blurb about the game itself, which is helpful for customers or parents looking to purchase the game. Moving on from the news tab, we have style. On the top left, we have even more Nook codes. Here, it would just give you a code that you could already find in Nintendo Power magazines. The code I'm showing on screen right now would give you the Starman item based on Super Mario Bros. Other than that, we have a question of the week answered by random villagers. So, there you go. There's also a couple polls you can partake in. We have Crib of the Month and Style File. For the former, you can judge houses based on atmosphere, layout, and decoration. The other one is run by Gracie the Giraffe, pitting players up against each other to see who's stylin' or not. There's one last poll I didn't mention that will take you to another page. A random assortment of villagers will be listed and you have to vote for 15 of your favorites and move on to the next. Unfortunately, a lot of the images seem to be broken. You can still vote for them, but it just feels kind of wrong. And none of the polls even do anything anymore. I can't even find the results. Other than that, we have, did I mention the question of the week? Next up, we have play. This was the one I was the most stoked about because of the Flash games, but there's only a couple. Later on, we'll see more. Before that, we have a spotlight for some of the visiting characters and a monthly horoscope. Nothing too insane. The first game on the list is the Mega Gyroid Hunt. It's pretty much your basic memory matching game where you help Rio the ostrich dig up gyroids. Unrelated note, but it's great to see her here. She was always one of my favorite villagers on GameCube who unfortunately moved out on me. I'm glad she made a reappearance in the New Horizons 2.0 update. When you successfully match all the gyroids, you're rewarded with a wallpaper for your desktop. Moving on, we have Find Your Way Home. In this game, Harmony spent all day fishing and lost track of time. Now with the darkness of night, you must help Harmony go through her maze of a village safely to home. I honestly think this is my favorite of the Flash games. The mazes are cleverly designed, constantly baiting you to go one way just to hit a dead end. This is also the only minigame with music in it, just a low quality loop of the Halloween music from the game. When you're finished, you get a thank you screen. On the travel page, we have a few tips and tricks, plus a couple of anecdotes from the villagers. Bob tells the story of how Olivia let him borrow her Mario Bros. Game, but she never received it back. Bob, do you know how much that game costs these days? Last thing worthy of noting here is an interactable map. Simply roll your mouse over certain acres to learn more about them. Weird thing is that the pink border isn't really working as it should. It's supposed to surround the acre your mouse is hovering over, but it's way too high up. There might have not been that much to see in travel, but nature didn't disappoint at all. More tips and anecdotes as per the usual, but this page houses not one, not two, but 3 Flash games! Let's start with Jeepers Creepers. The story is that Velma loves to collect bugs, however her little brother decided to release all of them from the terrariums. Now we help her out by dragging the correct insects into the respective containers. This one's just okay, and not really my favorite. I'm not sure if you gain anything from completing this one, because I didn't do it! Next up we have Bones Overwhelmed Blathers. In this little adventure, he receives a large quantity of fossils from the Faraway Museum, the people who assess the fossils in the game. Blathers enlists your help to pair the correct fossils with each other, so you do just that. This one's pretty neat. I like the timer on the top left, which incentivizes higher scores in the future. But again, there really isn't much to say about this one. The final Flash game here, and the first one I discovered actually, is Fishing Practice. A slew of barrels rolled over from Gulliver's ship after a mighty squid attacked. The villager Rosie, not to be confused with that Rosie, takes advantage of these floating barrels by fishing them out and earning bells. The goal is to collect 10 G's so she can pay off her debt to Tom Nook. You move from side to side and charge your fishing rod to get the barrels. Honestly, this one's actually pretty fun. It's not the easiest, but once you get the hang of it, it's honestly not too bad. Also, I'm not a big fan of this orange bubble on the bottom right because it makes the game look like it was made on scratch. Once you're done, we get a congratulations screen. We helped Lily pay off all her debt. I guess we're Lily now. Last up, we have Create. We have an advertisement for the e-reader cards, including a handy checklist for the day I decide to blow trillions on these scannable pieces of cardboard. Plus, there's some free desktops, always appreciated. There are a couple of activities here based on actual creation tools from the game itself. First is the Pattern Maker, based on the one found at the Able Sisters. This is a severely limited version of the one you can find in the other games. 15 colors, 1 palette to choose from, and a total of 2 tools makes this one a cool novelty, but not very great compared to the one in-game. You can still create some decent stuff in here in spite of all of that. So I decided to draw Christ if she was a cinnamon roll, and I think it turned out pretty good. The second activity here is the Melody Maker, much like the one adjacent to the post office. Except for the lower quality of the sound, there really are no compromises with this one. It's exactly what you expect. Here I went with recreating the Song of Storms from Ocarina of Time, which I've been using in my village for a while. There's a share button, and I tried sharing my song, but I couldn't get past this white screen, so... oh well, I guess nobody will ever hear it. That's pretty much all I got. I've run out of interesting things to say about this website, so I'll leave it there. It's fun to explore old relics of gaming such as this one, but at the same time, there's something a little somber about it. With social media as the main outlet for news of all types of things, it kind of makes some of these websites obsolete. As we can see here, this one specifically was packed with so much charm and creativity in its prime. Something simple yet kind of exciting. Maybe there's no reason to go back to it nowadays other than for novelty purposes, but it's still emblematic of a unique time in gaming history. We might not see any more content like this from gaming companies, but we can still appreciate them in hindsight. Speaking of content, I hope to do more videos like this in the future, covering obscure facts and history about my certain niches. I'd love to share more unique ways video games have been preserved over the years too. Also, this video just gave me a good excuse to talk about one of my favorite games of all time again, so that's always a plus. The video's over now. Let's talk about Sonic.